People are most deeply involved in the human emotions of tragedy and joy, and 1964 had more than its share of both. This is Victor J. reporting the diverse stories of people in the news on Year in Review. The date is July 18th, 1964. It is night. The weather is hot and so are tempers. And in New York's seething Harlem, anger over civil rights has turned into civil wrongs. Riots erupt, riots born of poverty and discontent, and fanned by extremist elements.
We are looking for 100 dedicated men who's ready to die. We are looking to get 100 very able and willing to be trained, skillful revolutionaries.
I saw New York's night of Birmingham horror. But now, brothers and sisters, let us get together, unite, plan a program of activity and a program, and we'll win.
Across the North, from Harlem to Rochester to Philadelphia and elsewhere, a summer of discontent gives birth to a summer of violence on both sides.
As a mother and as a parent of one of the 3 boys who are missing, I am making this plea to all parents everywhere, particularly to the parents of Mississippi, who, like myself, have experienced the softness, the warmth, and the beauty of a child whom they cherish and love and want to protect. I beseech your help and cooperation.
This is 21-year-old Andrew Goodman's mother. The trio she is talking about are 3 civil rights workers, 2 white men from New York and a Meridian Negro. They are missing in June in Mississippi, and hope for them dies hard. To some, like the NAACP's Roy Wilkins, it seems right away that the hot Mississippi summer has claimed lives.
Knowing Mississippi, I prefer to lean toward the Mississippi solution, which is that they're dead.
On August 4th, the FBI finds the 3 bodies. Andrew Goodman and Michael Schwerner have been shot. James Chaney beaten and killed. 6 months after the homicide, 21 men, including Ku Klux Klansmen, the sheriff and deputy of the county where the killings occurred, and a minister, are arrested. But this is Mississippi, and many wonder if the convictions will ever be obtained. Nobel Prize winner Dr. Martin Luther King voices the fears of many.
Honesty impels me to admit that this will be very difficult. I'm always open to creative surprises, and I would certainly hope that Mississippi will surprise the nation and the world in this instance.
People make news in 1964. Liz Taylor and Richard Burton are finally married, as are Dutch Princess Irene and Spanish pretender to the throne Carlos Hugo, after a stormy courtship opposed by the Dutch royal family. There are always those who will be missed at year's end. This year counts Douglas MacArthur and Herbert Hoover among those no longer with us. In the space race, 1964 is a quiet year. 3 Russian spacemen are orbited for a short trip in October, but both East and West are preparing more manned space shots for 1965.
All cameras are functioning. We are still receiving pictures.
This was among the best sounds of the year in space. Ranger 4 finally makes it to the moon, sending back 4,300 previously unseen pictures before it crashes into the lunar landscape after its 250,000-mile journey.
Excellent signal strength. We're receiving pictures to the end. Impact has occurred. Impact has occurred.
Jacqueline Kennedy makes news during the year, although she would like not to. The president's widow and her 2 children moved to New York and try to live a normal life, but it's not easy. The Kennedy Library Fund raises more than its planned $10 million, and Mrs. Kennedy thanks her countrymen.
We want this library to be so much more than a memorial to my husband's memory. I guess we really hope that young men whose names none of us now know will come to the library. It will excite their imagination and ambition, and they will go out and give us the kind of leadership my husband felt this country needed and deserved. That would have pleased him. that will make it all worthwhile.
The sports scene during 1964 is topped by baseball and boxing. Cassius Clay and Sonny Liston meet February 25th for a scheduled 15-round title fight. But Liston fails to come out for the 7th round because of a shoulder injury. Clay is the new world's champ, and he wants everyone to know it.
I want the American people to know that I am the greatest.
Later, the Louisville Lip embraces the Muslim religion, and he schedules his rematch for November. But a hernia operation puts the fight off until spring. In baseball, both pennant winners are teams which were far back at mid-season. The St. Louis Cards under manager Johnny Keane go on to take the World Series from the Yankees in 7 games. And then a day later, Keane walks into the Cardinals front office and hands in his resignation, decided on in September.
It has not been a spur-of-the-moment decision. Ms. Keane and I have talked it over very quietly, and we decided at that time that we were going to resign whether we won the pennant or not.
Less than 24 hours after that, Yankees executive Ralph Houck announces that manager Yogi Berra is also out, but not voluntarily.
Well, Yogi has accepted a 2-year contract to work directly under me. And I think with his experience and his long term with the Yankees, knowing all of our players and our young players, that of course he'll be very valuable at that job.
Eventually, dissatisfied with his treatment at the hands of the Yankees front office, Berra moves to the New York Mets to work for longtime associate Casey Stengel. As for the Yankees, before the year is out, they are sold to CBS for $14 million. The 1964 list of disasters includes the Good Friday earthquake in Alaska, Hurricanes Gladys and Hilda's vicious winds, and the crash in the fog-shrouded Atlantic waters of the liner Shalom and the tanker Stolt Dagali. No view of 1964 could possibly be complete without a mention of the 4 young men from Liverpool who set the musical world on its ear. The word Beatles meant success in every way, in every land. The Mop-Top Quartet is headed by elder John Lennon, who thought up the name.
I just thought of it, you know, as a name. I rose by any other.
Paul McCartney writes most of the songs.
What normally happens is that when sort of the girls are screaming, though, but people notice it more. I think, you know, that it's a different kind of audience reaction to the one you normally get. I don't know, it's the young people's way of showing their appreciation. We love it.
George Harrison is the middleman, and Ringo Starr is the non-singing Beatle on the drums.
Well, it's my second name, Starkey, so you couldn't have a name like Ringo Starkey, so I just cut it in half. So Ringo Starr is, folks.
These, then, are the Beatles, part of the diverse world of 1964. Year in review.
In these times of instant destruction, you could consider the very fact of having reached the end of a year an accomplishment in itself. And indeed it is. But 1964 has put man on a course that may encourage him to consider each passing year as a stepping stone on a path that leads to the fulfillment of his hopes and dreams. In the year to come, there almost certainly will be crises. Much of Africa will enter adolescence, and the resulting changes will be felt in the East and West. While the Soviet Union makes what may be profound changes in its internal economic structure and becomes less of a threat to peace, Communist China seems likely to continue policies which have caused turmoil and death. Latin America, too, has yet to find a measure of stability, and 1965 would be unusual indeed if it passed without a political struggle south of the border. There will be changes in alliances, and relations will improve between some nations, deteriorate between others. Some countries will struggle to master newly found strength and importance. Others will stir uneasily as they assume lesser roles in world affairs. But to understand that man can be burned off the face of the earth in a nuclear flash, that the world itself can be destroyed in an instant, is to value life more. And this appears to be the lesson learned by man in 1964. How well he has learned this lesson, and how well he uses this new insight, will be the story of 1965 and the years that follow. This has been 1964, Year in Review. Produced by Radio Press International. This is Bill Scott speaking.